IMSLP is God's gift to music students. Hello, Internet. So for some reason, I haven't made an episode of College Problems in like a year. I don't really know why that is, but anyway, music school. It's weird. I've always known that I would eventually make an episode of College Problems about music school and about being a music major. I just kind of never got around to it. And keep in mind that I've been making College Problems since 2013 when I was a freshman. But I think it's actually better that I'm making it now that I am a quote-unquote senior. And by that, I mean that I am in my 4th year of college, but I'm not graduating this year, because that's a thing that happens all the damn time to music majors. But anyway, I feel like it's better that I'm making this video now that I have had years and years of experience of going to music school every day. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that I want to talk about is something that causes an endless amount of anger and frustration for music majors, which is that there are never any goddamn practice rooms. Like, there are certain times of day where if you want to go and practice, you need to like strike at dawn and reserve a studio first thing in the morning so you can even get a room for that time, because that's when like everybody has off from class and everybody is trying to get in the practice rooms. This is part of the reason why I like practicing at school on the weekend, because on the weekend there's like barely anybody there and I can choose any room that I damn well please. And it's also quiet and there's nobody around to bother me. And also then you have people who will go to a practice room, do their practicing, leave their stuff in the room, then go to class, and having left their stuff in the practice room to like claim it as theirs, they'll go to class for like an hour and a half and then come back to the practice room. You are the worst people in the world. Like, really, you couldn't just give up your practice room for like the hour or two that you were in class so somebody else can use it. Like, nope, you just had to be a selfish asshole. So now let's shift away from practice rooms and onto something that I dealt with myself last week and I'm still kind of dealing with. When you're a singer, if you get sick, that means that your instrument is just broken, and that kind of sucks when your entire education revolves around singing. So last Sunday, I went to the Broadway flea market with a few of my friends. It was a ton of fun, but after Sunday, literally everybody who went to the Broadway flea market got sick, to the point where we started referring to it as the Broadway flea plague. So because I was literally coughing my lungs out up until like yesterday, and I was basically dying, I kind of couldn't really do anything in school. Like on Monday, I literally only went to school to run rehearsals for musical theater. Anybody on the cast can attest to this. I was literally sitting by the piano like, yeah, just sing that part like that. I was literally running rehearsal and dying. I was so sick that I called out of a lesson. Like, getting sick as a singer is just the most irritating thing, because it just kind of like halts your whole world because your instrument is broken and it's just a massive pain in the ass. And I'm not even gonna go into like just the disgusting array of things that I have seen people use and concoct to help their voice get better or to help them when they are sick. Over the years, I have seen plenty of just these weird alchemy concoctions that singers use when they're sick, and it's horrifying, but most of them are effective, so I can't even really complain about it or make fun of it. Also, on the topic of being a singer, everybody loves to shit on voice majors for no good reason. I hate to break this to you, but we're musicians too. Alright, so now let's move on to something that affects every music student, albeit in varying degrees. It is that some of your school supplies are just gonna be really expensive. Because I am not an instrumentalist, I have pretty much dodged, instrument-related expenses. I don't have to buy rosin, I don't have to buy reeds or strings or any of that. For singers, our instrument costs are literally just like honey, cough drops, and tea. But anyway, I am just gonna show you an example of one of these such expensive school supply items that I needed to buy for a class. This is my conducting baton. I had to buy it for conducting 1. Now, as long as I don't snap this thing in half, I will use it next semester for conducting 2, and probably eventually when I start teaching. But I want you to take a look at this item and just take a guess at what it costs. I'll wait. This was $25! This little flimsy piece of wood cost me $25! $6. Side note, when I went to go buy this thing at Sam Ash, I kind of felt like all my nerdy dreams were coming true because the professor had described like how you should choose your baton, like, oh, check the grip, like you might like this length better or this type of grip better. And it basically sounded like I was about to go to Diagon Alley and get my first wand because I'm about to go to Hogwarts. So the actual act of buying this was kind of a nerdy dream just because it kind of felt like I was finally becoming a wizard. But anyway, music school is filled with stuff like this, where you spend an exorbitant amount of money on something that really should not cost what it does. And by the way, on top of all of that, we have to spend just as much money as you do on textbooks. And then on top of the regular, like, just ridiculous cost of college textbooks, we have to buy sheet music. And while we're on the subject of sheet music, I need to yell about the fact that it seems that with like Broadway and musical theater sheet music, between one score and another, there is always like so many discrepancies between the scores. I can't even get this sentence out because it makes me so mad. This is something I have had to deal with in every MTO show for years, because before I was the director, before I was even the assistant director, my unofficial job was getting the music for the group numbers. And you would not believe how many versions of the sheet music, of the score that exist of every song that's ever been written for a musical ever. And so then you have score discrepancies, and then the score doesn't match with the recording, and then it's a pain in my ass. Anyway, moving on. In addition to buying sheet music, many singers by myself pay for a service called IPA Source, which is literally the greatest thing ever, because you just look up whatever piece you happen to be singing, and then it has the text in, you know, whatever language the text is in the piece. It has the literal translation, it has the poetic translation, and it has the IPA on it. For my non-singer friends, IPA stands for the International Phonetic Alphabet. It's basically a set of characters that kind of like correspond to different sounds in human language. It's just a tool to help you correctly pronounce languages that you don't speak. And IPA Source is the greatest thing ever, because do you have any idea how long it takes to sit down and translate a whole piece, write in the translation, and figure out the IPA? Because I've had to do it a few times in pieces where it just wasn't on IPA Source, and it was a literal nightmare. And at my school, because we're really spoiled, we all get like free access to IPA Source, so we don't have to pay for it. IPA is one of those things that when I explain it to non-musicians, they almost never understand what on earth I'm talking about, which brings me to my next point, which is explaining your classes to non-musicians. Most non-musicians assume that music school is a breeze, and that you do nothing all day, and that all your classes are easy A's, and that it's just so easy. No. Music school is extremely difficult, and it never really gets easier, because the second you get used to one thing, and the second you get good at one thing, they ratchet up the difficulty, so now you're just like, but shit! And the phrase that I have been hearing for literal years about being a music major that people just love to say, and I love to hear. So like, do you just sing for a grade? At the most basic level, yes? But it's not like I just walk into a room, sing an aria, and leave for the day. Like, that's not how it works. It's not just singing for a grade. It is not just that simple. Like for my voice lessons, like that class is not just me going into a room and singing for my teacher for an hour a week. For that, I also have to practice every day and work on my technique and learn my rep. And by the way, we have like academic classes as well. Not all of our classes are performance classes. Not even the majority of our classes are performance classes. We have to take things like music theory and music history and things like that. So no, we're not just singing for a grade. And there's also another thing that like non-musicians never understand, and even like non-singers don't really understand about like our track as a music major, and that is diction classes. Now, to most singers, this is a standard thing, not weird. Like, we get it, you know, it's just, that's a thing you have to do. But only when you explain it to somebody who doesn't have to do that do you realize that it's kind of weird. Diction classes are where you learn to pronounce different languages that you don't speak. So at my school, you have to take Italian, French, and German diction. And in that class, you learn, you know, how the language sounds. You learn about specific grammatical rules and specific like diction rules in that language. And in the case of a language like French, it is unbelievable how weird the diction and grammar rules are. Because it's like, all right, here's the rule, here's the exception to the exception, and fuck you. And these classes are super valuable because you kind of need to know how to fend for yourself without IPA Source. But again, when I tell this to like non-voice majors, they're always like, so you're saying you sit in a room and you learn how to pronounce a language. Like, you don't learn how to speak the language, you don't really learn how, like, what words mean, which is a lie, by the way. In every diction class I have ever taken, we have had vocabulary quizzes like every week. Anyway, yeah, we literally sit in a room and learn how to pronounce a language. And yes, I know that does sound weird, but we have to do it, and that's just a thing. Now on to another like little thing that I've just observed over my time being a voice major, and it is that singers all carry like these obnoxious size water bottles. Like, it's really not unusual to see somebody like stroll into choir rehearsal with a literal gallon of water. My friend Christina does this every day. And yes, to a non-singer, that probably does look ridiculous, but please realize that that's actually like a really good idea, because when you're singing literally all day, you need a lot of water. So instead of just filling up a small water bottle like 5 or 6 times, it's easier to just carry a really big water bottle. Like, we're not just walking around with these big ass water bottles like, oh my god, look at me, I am so healthy, I am so hydrated, look at me and my health. Nope, we're literally just doing it because we have to sing all day. And now to move on to the last point that I want to make, which is about homework. In regular like gen ed non-music classes, it's annoying, but in music school sometimes you'll be handed an assignment that's like a Superman feat of strength. I remember once in sight singing last semester, I had to sing through a piece on solfege while I was tapping the rhythm in my right hand and conducting with my left hand. And by the way, coordination is my ultimate pitfall as a musician, so this was just absolute torture. But you'll get stuff like that routinely, and you just kind of gotta take it and roll with it and just, you know, show up and do it. Like in piano class, they'll just give you a score reading to play. And by score reading, I don't mean a piano score. They'll give you an orchestral score and just go, play that. Like, they're not expecting you to grow 5 hands and play all the parts perfectly. They're just expecting you to play what's important. But even that is still very hard for non-pianists like myself. And that is about the end of this video. Leave a comment down below if you are a music major about some of the weirdest and craziest things you have had to do in music school. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Click that subscribe button if you have not already, and I will see y'all next Friday.